Somebody appears to have hacked my computer. What's this? General Motors Company's advertising spending in the United States from 2007 to 2022. 2022, the company dropped $3.25 billion, and I'd say on average consistently around $3 billion US spent in advertising just in the United States alone, just from government motors. That's a lot of money. What's this? From 2011. Why are we going back in time so far? What's this? GM sets Olympic ad deal with NBC. Oh, that's the same network. CNBS. It's the same. They're the same. Interesting. What's this? Let's read on. GM will be a major advertiser, one of the only two automakers airing commercials during NBC's broadcast of the 2012 Summer Olympics in London. Skip ahead a little bit. GM declined to say what vehicles the automaker would feature in the ads or how much GM would spend on the campaign, which will start 100 days before the Olympics. However, he said the expenditures would be, quote, significant. Also, GM spent $81.6 million in August 2008 and $41.5 million in February 2010 on Olympic advertising. These are some big numbers. None of that, of course, had anything to do with anything. Not even sure why my editor didn't delete it all. In completely unrelated matters, we're from the CNBS website, the same entity. 10 years in, GM CEO Mary Barra has built her legacy on change and crisis. 2024 will bring new tests. Monday marks 10 years of Mary B.S. Barra's tenure as CEO of Government Motors. It ushers in a crucial year for the Detroit automaker and for Barra's legacy. The automaker is facing challenges with EV demand and its Cruise autonomous driving unit, but those headwinds may play to Barra's strengths. He did it, Mary. Over the past decade, Barra has been a dynamic executive, guiding the company through high-profile crises as the first female leader of a major automaker. Now, can we stop? Who cares about her genitals, okay? Nobody cares. Oh wait, no, everybody cares because we need to divide and distinguish. Oh, she's a woman. Oh, congratulations, Mary, you're a woman. Wow. Let's focus on the results as opposed to the chromosomes of the person producing said results. It's just not relevant. Why even mention it? Oh, don't you understand? There's not very many women running. So what? It's not relevant. You don't understand. It's so hard. Look, I really think we should just focus on the results of her leadership. Under her stewardship, GM has seen record profits, cultural changes, and major achievements, including beating Wall Street earnings forecasts in 34 of the last 35 quarters, according to FactSet. So, just to be clear, GM didn't beat anything. Wall Street missed. Big difference. She's regularly ranked as one of the most powerful business leaders in the world, with former executives and current executives describing her as a visionary and inclusive leader who has always remained focused on the task at hand, which, in case you're unaware, is destroying the company she currently leads. And that task for much of Barra's time at GM has been to push the envelope. Fuck me. Just hypothetically, as we read through this, just imagine that this article were in fact talking about Elon Musk and see would these descriptions be more fitting to Elon's leadership at Tesla or Mary B.S. Barra's leadership, quote unquote, at GM. So she's pushed the envelope and transformed the largest US automaker for sustained success. Apparently, the sustained success. Boy, this is going to age well. Let's check back in 5-10 years' time. Sustained success, eh? But her main business plans of late have failed to meet internal or external expectations, including her own. Initiatives involving electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles have come under pressure, with EV rollout and demand slower than expected, and GM majority-owned Cruise in crisis. The electric vehicle and autonomous vehicle business, along with emerging software initiatives, were major parts of lofty financial targets earmarked for 2025 and 2030. GM, it's hard to say this with a straight face, says it can still achieve its goals, among them to double revenue by 2030 by shifting focus, but it's yet to detail how. Without the help of its stated growth drivers. Yeah, so what we're hearing again is a lot of plans and zero strategy. It's not the first time that GM have claimed things that they couldn't really justify. Quote, I always thought the EV and AV strategies were awfully ambitious and were more to show Wall Street that they were becoming a tech company more than an auto company, trying to imitate Tesla too much in many ways, said an executive analyst with Cox Automotive, who previously covered GM as a reporter starting in the 1980s. And by the way, I tend to agree here, called it at the time. Oh look, Tesla's killing it. Let's be more like Tesla. Oh, Nicola, nice computer renderings, bro. Let's ignore the red flags. Let's get on some of that gravy train with the EVs. Yeah, bro. How about another one? How about Ford's Down Motors as well? And let's talk about how we'll outsell Tesla in the United States in the future. And then when we question about how the numbers make sense, we'll just ignore that. Public criticism of Barra has been scant. Obviously, they're not watching my YouTube channel, are they? But Wall Street and investors are speaking through the company's stock price. Famed investor Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, which took a major stake in GM in 2012, sold all its shares in the company without explanation during the third quarter of 2023. Is it possible that Warren and co have finally figured out what I've been saying for multiple years here on the YouTube channel? It's worth pondering. GM stock closed Friday at $35.26 per share, down 10.5% under Barra's tenure. Huge return there for shareholders. An entire decade and the stock's up down 10.5%. And off by nearly 50% from a high of more than $67 on January 5th, 2022. Unplugged, GM appeared to be the front runner in recent years to challenge US leader Tesla in electric vehicles with its new EV architecture and billions in investment. No, bro. No. They did a lot of talking, and a lot of dimwits believed what they said at face value, but it was evident that the talking did not align with actions, nor would they achieve the results they were claiming they intended on producing. Barra surprised many in 2021 by announcing that GM would end production of traditional internal combustion engine vehicles and exclusively offer consumers EVs by 2035, which, for the record, is almost a decade after no consumers, at least those who are not suffering from brain damage, will want to buy ICE vehicles. How courageous. At the time, GM promised to transform the company and automotive industry through what Barra called visionary investments, including what would become $35 billion towards electric and autonomous vehicles by 2025. She touted GM's growth opportunities, including its next-generation ETHEREUM EV architecture, and many other major automakers followed suit and announced similar electrification goals. But GM has rolled out its next-gen EV models at a snail's pace amid production snags, and its most recent model, the Chevy Blazer EV, has paused sales due to significant software problems. GM's EV sales last year totaled a whopping 75,883 units, or 2.9% of the company's overall sales. It was third in EV sales behind Tesla and Hyundai, which includes Kia. According to Cox Automotive, however, a vast majority of GM's EV sales from its now discontinued Chevrolet Bolt models. Broad consumer demand for EVs hasn't materialised the way GM or others had hoped. Now, fake news alert. The demand's there, but if you make a piece of shit and it's too expensive, people aren't going to buy it. People want great, compelling, well-priced, high-value electric vehicles, not piles of shit. What was the world's best-selling vehicle last year? Oh, that's right, an electric vehicle. And many automakers have withdrawn or walked back the EV ambitions they set just a few years ago. Barra said in December that while there's still a path to exclusively offer EVs by 2035, customer demand will ultimately determine the pace of the company's EV transition. Jeez, what a courageous leader here. Quote, "We still have a plan in place that allows us to be all light-duty vehicles by 2035. But again, we'll adjust based on where the customer is and where demand is," she said. Quote, "But I do believe this transition will happen over a period of time." To be more vague. The hilarity, by the way, the implications here in what she's suggesting is that maybe GM will still be producing ICE vehicles after 2035. We'll just see if demand's as bad as we think it is. You can't make this shit up, bro. I feel like we're reading comments from Blockbuster's CEO after they were beginning to be disrupted by Netflix via online streaming, and there was a tiny blip on the radar for whatever reason, and Blockbuster like, well, we still plan to offer a streaming service starting 15 years from now, but, depending on consumer demand, it may be a little bit slower to roll it out. It's a little bit uncertain right now. As early as 2017, GM's EV focus was on getting as many electric vehicles to market as possible, promising, more plans, to launch a mix of at least 20 new all-electric and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles globally by 2023. And then in November 2020, that goalpost shifted and the automaker said it would introduce at least 30 new EVs by 2025 and spend $27 billion, an amount that was later up to $35 billion on electric and autonomous vehicles. Turns out, plans do not directly equate to results. GM has not yet released exact details about that spending, but executives last year confirmed the automaker was pushing back or cutting EV spending by billions. Now, if I didn't know any better, I obviously do, but if I didn't know any better, I might suggest that maybe executives within GM have realised the company is going to go bankrupt anyway and decided to just focus on the next few years to pump profits as much as possible, hopefully pump the stock, or at worst, just prevent it from collapsing too much, and then ultimately get the fuck out of there before the company implodes, and then they can throw their hands up and say, oh, well, it's not our fault. Who could possibly have known how quickly the EV transition would happen? Just nobody could possibly have predicted that, and by the way, Tesla, who's that? In October, GM pulled its near-term EV targets that included selling 400,000 vehicles in North America between 2022 and mid-24, as well as producing 100,000 EVs in North America during the second half of 2023. Now, these weren't the same targets that Mary Biasbara was asked about previously, and while saying one thing, suggesting they were attainable, was simultaneously shaking her head. Are they? The Detroit automaker and Honda also cancelled plans to jointly develop affordable EVs, which have been a $5 billion capital project, and GM opted to instead revive the cancelled Chevrolet Bolt as a new model in 2025. GM maintains it will achieve low profit margin on EVs by 2025, as well as increase North American capacity for the vehicles to 1 million units by then. The automaker expects to maintain an 8 to 10% adjusted profit margin in North America through the transition. Now, spoiler alert, any legacy automotive manufacturers who claim or expect they're going to maintain profits at all as they transition their entire business to electric vehicles are categorically fucked. The only way to do this is if you think you can milk profits on your currently profitable, not for long ICE vehicles, move too slowly, and ultimately, because you move too slowly and you continued producing vehicles, the demand for which was about to fall off a cliff, dug yourself into a further hole, got too far behind, although they're already too far behind to survive, and imploded. Huge red flag. What you need to hear from companies is the truth. We are going to lose tens of billions of dollars in the next few years attempting to scale our EVs to profitability. We will not be making profits during that time. You will have to deal with it, but that's the only way we have a chance of surviving. If you hear anything other than this, they're full of shit or they're brain dead, and I don't know which is worse. If EVs have been struggling to capture consumer attention, they have not. Autonomous vehicles in GM's Cruise unit have been commanding it, but not for the reasons Barra would like. Late last year, Cruise transformed nearly overnight from one of GM's greatest business opportunities into a growing liability. Cruise, of which GM owns more than 80% and which Barra chairs, has confronted a wave of problems and investigations sparked by an October 2nd accident in which a pedestrian in San Francisco was dragged 20 feet by one of the unit's self-driving cars after the person was struck by another vehicle. Now, bro, I so called this, remember? Death machine on wheels. As long as nothing changes, it's totally fine. It's like a glorified party trick on rails, but as soon as something changes, death machine on wheels. I mean, hello, I literally called it. Investigations into the incident are ongoing, GM said on Friday. Since the incident, Cruise's robotaxi fleet has been grounded, pending the results of an independent safety probe. Make that probes. Local and federal governments have launched their own investigations. Cruise leadership has been gutted. Its co-founders resigned and 9 other leaders were ousted, and the venture laid off 24% of its workforce. Beyond all of that, GM is massively cutting spending and growth plans for the business, including pausing production of a new robotaxi. Barra said during an Automotive Press Association meeting in Detroit in December that GM is very focused on sinking the ship. I think I misread that, but anyway, let's move on. At Cruise was considered to be among... Oh, this is killing me. Cruise was considered to be among the leaders in autonomous vehicles alongside Alphabet-backed Waymo, according to some people, ex-Legacy Automotive, who have no idea what they're talking about, outlasting many other companies that have abandoned the segment. The turmoil at Cruise also calls into question GM's own plans to offer personal autonomous vehicles by as early as mid-decade, as well as the company's next-generation driver assistance system, Ultra Cruise. By the way, you know it's going to be good if it's called Ultra Cruise. The Ultra Cruise system was initially planned to debut in 2023 and eventually be capable of driving itself in 95% of scenarios, but progress has been unclear. Two sources familiar with the system told CNBS that the automaker is ending the Ultra Cruise program. Oh wow, that's unfortunate. I mean, with a name like Ultra Cruise, how could it possibly have gone wrong? One source said GM had decided to instead focus on the current Super Cruise system and expanding its capabilities rather than having two different, similarly named systems. I mean, yeah, it's a bit weird. GM's Vice President of Global Technology Communications declined to comment on specifics of Ultra Cruise, but said, quote, GM continues to expand access to and increase the capability of Super Cruise, our advanced driver assistance technology. Our focus remains on safely deploying this technology across GM brands and more vehicle categories while expanding to even more roads. Oh, and here we go. The puff piece continues. Actually, the puff piece gets started. Transformative legacy. Barra took over as CEO of GM in January 2014 when the company was still emerging from government ownership as a result of a 2009 bankruptcy and decades of mismanagement. The irony. Since taking over, GM has faced yet another decade of mismanagement. Now, I do want to be clear. If you are extremely short-sighted and you also ignore the performance of the stock over that time, you could argue that Mary's done a decent job. But if, as a result of her decade-long tenure as CEO, the company has taken a series of turns that, if handled differently, could have allowed it to become one of the larger US automotive companies a decade from now, producing reasonable electric vehicles that consumers enjoyed and were buying and were profitable, and instead Under her leadership, I use the term loosely, there's been misstep after misstep after misstep. The iceberg has been completely ignored. The Titanic has well and truly since collided with the iceberg and is currently sinking. I personally would describe that as a literal decade of mismanagement. If a company you lead for a decade after you get shit canned and enjoy a golden parachute for your incompetence goes bankrupt a few years later as a result of decisions you made, completely fucking the company beyond repair, I guess that certainly is a transformative legacy, isn't it? Just not in the way you might expect. She was brought in to both deal with the ghosts of GM's past and to guide the automaker into a cleaner future. Instead, she's completely destroyed the company and set them on an inevitable path to bankruptcy. You did it, Mary. Quote, Mary was one of the few people in the original team that I thought understood this thing was broken. And so we wanted her to jump on board to make fucking sure it was even more badly broken. Barra's philosophy as a CEO and chair, a position she's held since 2016, has been to address problems head on, like the iceberg, but just running into it head on. Fucking idiot. She routinely says, quote, the best time to solve problems is the minute you know about. Oh, bro. So now we're getting an insight into the politician in CEO's clothing here. This dumb fuck has a head in the sand about electric vehicles. Talks cheap, bro. The problem with electric vehicles disrupting your internal combustion engine business? Yeah, let's ignore that. Because the best time to solve a problem is the minute before you get kicked out for being incompetent and someone else takes over the company that's already doomed. That philosophy has served her and GM well thus far, as Barra has navigated what seemed like an unending string of crises in the past decade, the second longest tenure of any CEO in the company's 115-year history after its founder. Barra managed a recall of roughly 30 million vehicles beginning in 2014 after an ignition switch defect caused 120 deaths and led to a complete restructuring of GM safety operations. Quote, the way she took the ignition switch recall and used it to really drive some deep change in the organisation, she shook some things up, said Stephanie Brinley, Associate Director of Research at S&P's Global Mobility. Quote, and I think they've made a difference. Barra guided the company through the 2014 parts crisis and initiated several company restructurings across the globe, including exiting many unprofitable markets. That fat trimming was in preparation for an expected disruption from the, quote, mobility or tech industries and the likes of Lyft, Uber, Apple, and Google. And she fended off 2 activist shareholder campaigns, including from David Einhorn's Greenlight Capital, which pushed for seats on GM's board to initiate a split of GM's common stock into 2 classes to help boost its share price. The more recent challenges facing GM, Cruise, EV uncertainty, shifting priorities, play to Barra's strengths. He's discerning in the face of... God, this is hard, bro. Of course, it's totally reasonable to hear what a brilliant leader Mary is, how well she's steering the ship, how great she handles crises, and how she always takes action as soon as she discovers a problem. Quote, she's a good leader. And she's a good listener, but she's also tough when it comes to making difficult decisions for the shareholders. So far, what I've seen, she's done an outstanding job, a former GM executive said. But as the headwinds compound and some of Wall Street lose confidence, 2024 is shaping up to be either the cherry on top of Barra's career or an unexpected dent in her track record, or the inevitable final chapter in an entire book that was the clusterfuck of clusterfucks. I mean, bro. Now, don't get me wrong. Being a CEO of any company, especially something like GM, is not an easy job. Most of you would struggle to do it. But I will call a spade. And this spade is called a catastrophic failure of leadership over the last decade, dooming a company that could have survived had they only had a competent leader with vision and courage, instead of a politician in CEO's clothing. Quote, the shift to EV and autonomous is one that's just not that simple. It's going to be a struggle for a while, and the success or failure on that is probably not really going to be known very well until well after her tenure, bro. It's already known. GM's gone bankrupt, they're fucked, and this has been obvious for literal years. But of course, I can't possibly know that. I'm just saying that now so that when it does happen, I can get an AI to look through my transcripts and clip me saying that fucking 600 times in a row over the span of half a decade prior to it starting to happen, and go, oh, nobody could possibly have known, which is why I didn't explicitly say it was going to happen day after day after day after day for years in a row. When asked in December about her tenure and legacy, Barra, 62, said she doesn't think about it too much. She's more focused on what's in front of her. Quote, I'm an engineer, problem solver. Let's move forward, she said. Quote, I'm humbled and it's a privilege to lead General Motors at this point in time. We're in the midst of this really once-in-a-generation transformation and there's so much that can be done. I wonder what the CNBS piece on Elon Musk's performance in his first 10 years as the leader of Tesla looked like. I just did a search for CNBC. Elon Musk, Tesla 10 years tenure. Elon Musk wants more control of Tesla. How Tesla rose to retail investor stardom. Elon Musk's behavior and damage to Tesla brand. Tesla stock down as investor day falls short on specifics. 10 years. Let's see. I'm struggling to find anything. I must just be using the wrong keywords, right? It's not like the fact that Tesla doesn't spend billions of dollars advertising in the United States alone. Many hundreds of millions on single networks would influence whether or not they would create puff pieces about a CEO's 10-year tenure, right? That would never happen. Yeah, it must be an accident. Can somebody please find the article that CNBS made when Elon had done his first 10 years at Tesla, explaining what a decent job he'd done? I'd really like to read that article, because obviously advertising spend or lack of spend doesn't influence coverage whatsoever. If you guys could put a link in the comments when you finish watching this video, that'd be great. Thanks. Bye. Want more content? Early access? Bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. AG1 has given me a massive, meaningful boost in energy, allowing me to do a lot more every day, including using my brain more and using my body more. I highly recommend you guys and girls check it out. It's an excellent way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus prebiotics and probiotics and digestive enzymes and adaptogens to help you deal with stress. Plus, if you click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR, you can get yourself a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. But don't take my word for it. Here's what some of you guys and girls have to say. AG1 has changed my life. I was, as you described, treating myself like a circus, ate like trash, rarely exercised, used alcohol as a stress crutch, cannabis also. AG1 is what gave me the kick in the ass, got me back to the gym, motivated me to do more for myself, family, my business, etc. Keep doing what you do. Now, I know there's some skeptics, the same kind of people who think Elon Musk is a fraud, reading this going, what do you thought? There's no way that's possible, bro. It must be a placebo effect. Believe it or not, this is a recurring theme. If you give your body everything it needs to feel and perform its best, including having a lot more energy, you'll need ways to use that energy. For me personally, that includes more exercise, moving my body more social activity, and more cognitively demanding tasks, including producing a fuck ton of exclusive content over on Twitter and on Patreon, plus my daily YouTube uploads. The proof's in the pudding. On to another testimonial from a viewer of this channel. SMR, you asked me to provide feedback on AG1. Here it is. It has helped with mental acuity, stamina, and intestinal waste management. Can't read between the lines. It certainly helps with regularity and digestion. That's what the digestive enzymes are for. It has also dramatically reduced my cravings for sugar. You guys need to stop eating sugar. It's fucking poison. I'm 50, 5'9", and overweight, aka a fat motherfucker. I think that's a technical term for overweight, isn't it? Is it fat motherfucker or obese? I can't remember. I average 100 hours a week in the West Texas oil fields as a safety supervisor. Jesus Christ, dude. No wonder you're struggling to keep your weight under control. 100 hours a week. Brutal. It has helped me lose weight. It is not an appetite suppressant. It can help fat people suppress cravings, and motivation to be healthier is critical for changing your diet. Love you, brother. Again, this is a great point. It's something people really don't seem to grasp. If you have more energy, everything becomes easier. It's like turning on easy mode for life. A few years ago, before I was taking AG1, my health was trash. I was struggling to get through the day, had afternoon fatigue. The last thing I wanted to do was either use my brain or move my body. Didn't have the energy. Now, my biggest struggle every day is figuring out ways to use that energy. I'm exercising way more, doing a lot more with my friends and family, and of course, my work output has increased substantially. And you can fact check me. Check out the average length of my videos I was posting to YouTube 3 years ago. Need I say more? And one final testimonial. Love this one. Okay, here's the deal for me with this AG1 shit. I'm 41 years old and not the type to eat, drink, smoke, or sleep healthy, so I was skeptical. That being said, here's what I experienced. Day 1, meh. Day 2, afternoon fatigue was about 45 minutes late. Day 3, 0 afternoon fatigue. Day 4, 0 afternoon fatigue plus extra energy. Day 5, again, 0 afternoon fatigue plus energy, wondering, what the fuck, really? See, this is the thing, right? The results for many people are just almost too good to be true. This is the same experience I had. My afternoon fatigue just vanished out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Why am I not tired in the afternoons anymore? Surely, it's not that AG1, is it? Turns out it was. Day 6 and 7, same thing. Day 8, same thing. Plus, I had the want to get things done around the house that I normally would slack off and not get done. Again, the point, extra energy, you'll need to use it, you'll find ways to use it. Day 9, 10, and 11, and today is day 12. I fucking love it. So however you managed to get me to buy it, I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much, SMR. It really changed me so far. Guys, this shit really works. Just try it. By the way, this is the reason I continue to relentlessly promote AG1. A lot of people get real fucking mad in the comments. Oh my God, snake oil salmon's sold out. Oh my God, he's a scammer. This is fraud. But constantly, I'm pretty sure everyone making these comments is also currently short Tesla stock. I'm not particularly concerned about people having a negative perception, those folks suffering from small brain syndrome, still living in my bum's basement syndrome, etc., writing mean comments, claiming AG1's a scam or it doesn't work. I mean, bro, When I get feedback like this is what keeps me going. Just try this stuff for a month, and if you don't get these results, get your money back. See, it's a literal no-brainer. It's an IQ test at this point in time. Testimonial after testimonial after testimonial like this. Get your money back if it doesn't work. Just try it for a month, and if it doesn't work, get your money back. Today's the day. It's finally time. Be like this guy who was a massive skeptic, but finally, after 1,000 promotions in a row, caved in, tried AG1, and has results like this. Head to drinkag1.com/SMR or click the link at the pinned comment, and please, let me know how you're feeling in a few weeks' time. Now, if you'll excuse me, time to put my extra energy to good use. I'll be recording some more exclusive content for Patreon and my Twitter subscribers. So click the links at the pinned comment, see you over on Twitter and or Patreon, and don't forget to grab your AG1. Love ya.